I'm joined by François-René Rideau on this episode. He's the chief scientist and lead developer of Sky Protocol, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what all this is, how this L2 for Cardano, well, first off, Cardano is going to help improve the ecosystem overall, and some of these really technical things such as data availability. I think I've gotten the idea around this, but Francois is going to tell us a little bit more about it and explain everything that their team is building here. So Francois, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm François-René Rideau from Sky Protocol. Sky Protocol is an approach to doing modular DApps, modular decentralized applications, which means that we try to separate the consensus aspect, the validation aspect, the data availability aspect, and the bridging aspect. And the aspect we think is the least served, especially on the Cardano ecosystem, is data availability. So what is data availability? The fact that
that was my next question.
In a DApp, before you accept some data as valid, before you even check for its validity or accept it to the consensus, you must make sure you have seen all the data. Because if you have not seen all the data first, you cannot check the validity. Although you kind of can if you use zero knowledge proofs, but that's a different approach. But even if the data is valid and you don't see it, then you cannot create new transactions. Which means that an operator who could hold your data unavailable, we call that a data withholding attack. A malicious operator who takes over your chain and decides, hey, now I want to hold all the assets in that chain hostage, can just keep the data unavailable, and now no one can do anything with the chain unless they pay him a ransom. So data availability is what helps you avoid getting all your assets ransomed. In some chains that use things like interactive proofs, the operator who can hold the data unavailable can also elope with the assets, not just hold it for ransom, but elope with the assets. And you say, oh, let's just use zero knowledge proofs everywhere. Maybe you can, but if you are not available, then there is no way to avoid some attacks that makes your chain censored and unavailable, or at least unavailable to some of you because it's censored. So you really want data availability in all your side chains. And it's a service that layer ones like Cardano and Bitcoin, etc., offer if you post the data on layer one. And having a sidechain that puts data on layer one is called a rollup. That's an idea that was proposed by Vitalik Buterin and is used a lot on Ethereum. But that solves the problem of data availability, but it's very expensive. Posting your data as on layer one saves you a factor maybe 10, say, or order of magnitude compared to directly doing the transaction on layer one, but it's still very expensive. Like the transactions on Ethereum are so expensive that even using the rollup technique, maybe you can save a factor 10 on transactions, but that's not enough. Similarly, on Cardano, even if you could save a factor 10 on your transactions, that would be good. I mean, factor 10 is good. I don't know if rollups on Cardano would say a factor 10. I didn't make the calculation, but let's say it's a factor 10. That would be good, but still not enough. You want to be able to scale much further. And to scale much further, you need a specialized data availability system, a data availability network, or your own network for everything. And the advantage of your data availability network is that all the side chains that use the same data availability network can basically pool economic resources into the network that provides data availability.
So there's a lot here to consume, and I'm trying to now visually see how a DApp or something would use this data availability layer. within
Okay.
their own DApp itself. So we know that we're pulling the data to a different layer, so it's more readily accessible and cheaper for a DApp
Mm,
too. But what are some use cases of this and to build on top of?
yes. So the main use case is make apps that can scale massively. Today, the best chain can have maybe a few tens of thousands of transactions per second on average. But with a data availability layer that is done properly, you can scale as far as the internet can scale. That is, the more transactions there is, you can add more validators and then more we call that topics or shards or let's say topics. You can add more topics, and every topic has a size limit, a throughput limit, which ensures that it cannot be overflown by spammers or by attackers. Because another possible attack is I'm going to send so much data on the data availability layer because it can scale so much. So I'm going to send so much data that you cannot follow and then you cannot check the validity. So that's another attack that bad operators could do. But if your DA allows you to have limits on every topic, then you know that on this chain I cannot be flooded. But I can, so every chain has a limit, but you can have as many chains as possible. So everyone looks at the chains or subparts of the chain that he's interested in. And so everyone is safe because there's a limit on what they have to watch. But at the same time,
Gotcha. Okay.
there's enough space for everyone. Because not everyone will watch the same space. I watch this space, you watch this space because I have my assets here, you have your assets there. Everyone watches his part of the universe. But the universe is big. So because the part you have to watch is small, because you only have so much assets, even if you're Elon Musk, you only have a small fraction of the wealth in the world. So your assets are small enough that you can focus. But the more wealth you have, the more assets you have, of course, the wider you can afford to watch. But at the same time, you don't have to watch everything. And yet,
Yeah.
the system can scale to everything because that's the whole point of data availability layer. It can scale it in parallel. Like you don't have to, as opposed to a consensus where everything is serial. With the data availability thing, it's in parallel. So you can
Yeah.
parallelize a lot.
Yeah. So essentially having specific chains for other parts of data that you need to store, maybe like a logistics chains data and then account based data or something like that. I'm just trying to paint a picture for the users as well so they can visually see it in their heads. So it's a very interesting thing to try and conceptualize for a lot of people that are still learning the L1s and then having
Yes,
to learn about parallelism in L2s and
yes.
scalability that way.
So the name of my company is called Mutual Knowledge Systems. And at the heart, the mutual knowledge is a concept in game theory and epistemologic is what everyone knows. So let's say everyone in the room actually knows and prefers speaking French. But there are conferences where everyone speaks English, so they start speaking English. And then someone realizes, hey, you all have certain, do you all speak French and do you all prefer French? And everyone says, oh yeah. And then everyone can suddenly speak French. And which means that everyone knowing and preferring French, which is mutual knowledge, is not enough for them to speak French to each other. They also have to realize that they all know and prefer French. And that is called common knowledge. The fact that everyone knows that everyone knows that everyone knows that everyone knows, etc. Something is called common knowledge. And in a way, a consensus brings you common knowledge. It means some kind of it's an agreement. It's not everyone's like 67% of the hash power, whatever it is, but it's essentially the concept that enough of everyone knows enough of the things that we know that everyone knows. And common knowledge or consensus is very powerful and it's also very costly compared to mutual knowledge. Mutual knowledge is just everyone knows. It doesn't. There's no interaction between the participants or the people in the group, and therefore mutual knowledge is much cheaper and can be achieved faster and in parallel. And that's exactly why a DA layer can work in parallel and do many more things than consensus can do.
Yeah. So overall, it's pretty exciting to have something like this for the Cardano ecosystem to be able to scale
Yeah.
up and have DApps that can handle hundreds of thousands of users as opposed to where it is at the moment. So how is the roadmap looking for you guys? Like, where are you in developing Sky Protocol and taking it further?
So right now we're at the design and planning phase, and we're launching an initial token this summer to on the first phase. So we launch a token on several phases. But the first phase is this summer to raise enough money to launch on Cardano this year. We want to launch a first version that actually scales and works on Cardano this year. We will not have probably all the features we want this year, probably not, but we will launch on Cardano this year, and for that we are raising a token this summer. And after we've launched a fully working protocol, or just before, we'll do a second phase of launching the token, or launch like we'll put more of the token on the market so that we can be more decentralized, because the first version we launch this year will not be completely decentralized, as in, there are enough tokens in our hands or whatever that in practice we control the system. But as we actually launch the system in production, we will do airdrops and more sale of the tokens, so that we want then the network to become fully decentralized. So we want to demonstrate that it works while we control it technically, and once we demonstrate that it works, hey, it's working, now let's sell tokens so that it's actually decentralized, because as in any proof of stake system, it's the fact that the stake is owned by many different people that makes it decentralized. So we want that to happen. After Cardano, we want to launch on other networks, and we're not sure exactly what the right way to do it is. So we have many ideas. Should we do another extension of the token sale? Should we sell a separate token? We don't know, but we will. After Cardano is only the first step. Part of the DA is specific to a chain, but only a small part of the DA is specific to Cardano versus Ethereum, etc. And so it's not that hard to modify the code to make it work on other chains. Then it's a little bit harder to make it on all those chains at once. It's still possible, but I think we'll see. First, we're launching on Cardano this year and try to make it work well on Cardano next year with very well decentralized, etc. And then we launch on another chain.
Okay.
Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay. I know from experience there may be a little bit of pushback in the process of token before product, where a lot of Cardano ecosystem people do now these days because of other failed token sales or whatever. Not saying that you guys are going to fail. We're going to talk about your history in a second, but they're always wanting to see some sort of MVP before token comes about. So is this token sale that you're going to do going to target the regular retail users, or are you more so targeting private sale VCs that could afford to lose money if things don't go perfectly?
That's why we're doing a two-tier launch. The first tier is for the people who are ready to take more risks, and yes, probably a lot of them would be more VC-like. And on the other hand, we're a company, we have some track record, we've done things in the past, we worked with Cardano. Our first project with Cardano was the Glow language of 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Take me back.
I was looking up this history to talk about, to ask questions about it, and Glowlang was the first thing that came up. So please do go into that, because I did want to talk about that history.
So the Glow language was it's a portable language that can be ported to many chains, and it's portable because it's high level. It has a built-in notion of participants and of tokens and of interaction in multiple steps between participants. So you can very easily write something like here's a token swap, or a futures contract or a gambling, throw dice, or play a poker, or something. But whenever you write an app, at every step, it's very clear. This is instruction, something in many steps, and here's the participant at this step, the participant at that step, etc. And here's the collateral that everyone leaves to make sure that that he will still be active in the next step. And so a lot of the bugs you have in regular dApps disappear because you have built in the notion of participant and built in the notion of assets. And then you can have analysis. We wrote analysis in ADA of some apps that ADA is a language for formal verification, where we could prove that, yes, not only this app is correct in the sense that it will not leak the money of a participant, but for every participant, we know that the app is a positive sum game up to the fees that you have to pay to partake. So you cannot lose more than your fees, basically. We can prove that given your initial evaluation of the situation, you cannot lose more than your fees. And of course, your initial evaluation may be probabilistic, and then but that's up to you to make a correct evaluation of the situation. But you cannot lose more than your fees, and that's very important. And then we can compare to Cardano, to EVM. We could compare to a ZK proof system, Lurk, invented by the people at Filecoin. So we can compare to many very different settings, and that's very exciting. The fact that you can have a very portable language to write dApps. And eventually we want to resurrect Glow with our DA layer Sky protocol, because we believe that once we make Sky protocol work on more than one chain, you may want to write your apps that work on any chains that work with Sky protocol, and that's where you may want then to use Glow. So we wrote Glow. We have a proposal called Avoom to mix accounts and UTXOs for Cardano and other UTXO chains. So there's a way that you can have a general purpose way you can have accounts at the same time as UTXO. So accounts are great if you want to queue transactions for the future. UTXOs are great if you want to verify the chain in parallel for the past. So the two work together. Why can't we have the best of both, like the parallelization of UTXOs, where you can really easily verify the past of the chain, and the queuing of transactions of accounts. And yes, you can have both, but it requires slight trick. It requires like updating the miners to do interesting things. So we have the proposal for Cardano. It has not been funded for Cardano. We also helped avoid some attack vulnerability. We found a vulnerability in the interchain messaging of Harmony One and helped them with them. Unhappily, they had a vulnerability somewhere else that we didn't look at. They had a vulnerability in their SSH, their bridge. I think their bridge got hacked, so that was not part of their code base that we could see. So, whoops.
Whoops, indeed. Well, it does. It does show that you guys have a great wealth of knowledge. You have done all that work and partnership work with IOHK
Yes.
back then as well. So I will put links to Glow. I did do a little bit of reading about it, and I'm pretty sure some other people find it quite interesting as well to learn a little bit more what you guys have done, company profiles, and everything else around that as well. Now, the next kind of question that I want to get into now, I know the difference here in regards to what we're talking about, but there were previous other side chains that had been created for Cardano in the past. One was Milkometer, and that had a lot of dApps deployed on there and had some sort of growth, but at the moment it's not really popular at all. I'm interested in how you guys are going to drum up the interest for Sky Protocol, how you're going to get dApps building on Sky Protocol and leveraging this DA that you guys have for it.
I think the first DApps we will probably some of the first DApps we will write ourselves. So of course we will welcome that from everyone, and we want to make it attractive to use Scale Protocol as a way to scale your DApps. So Scale Protocol, since it's only deals with the data availability layer, you will still write your DApp mostly in terms of Cardano in Bluetooth or whatever you use for Cardano, but you will use Scale Protocol to make your DApp scale in a massive way. And we believe that just the fact that you can scale will be an appeal to many people. Some people want everything to stay on L1, to stay on Cardano, that's fine, and they don't need us, they just need to pay the fees. And maybe the same people with the same app will write two versions. Here's a version where you stay on L1, it's more secure, but you pay higher fees, or the same DApp, oh, but we can scale it. And if you're ready to use a Scale Protocol, then here's the same app using Scale Protocol instead. And so we believe that in the future, people will offer the option, hey, you can have the thing that doesn't scale on L1, or the same thing that scales with Scale Protocol. Because you won't have to change a lot as you code your app, you can flip a switch. Here are the two versions, and a lot of people can then share the economic security of Scale Protocol. But yes, why would a lot of people use it? Well, we will demonstrate how it works. We will write sample dApps, the usual suspects, but also dApps that are not possible without a scaling solution. I'm thinking of, for instance, of order books. A lot of people doing dApps today or exchanges have to use AMMs, and AMMs are good enough when you can't scale in terms of latency. But with an app like with Scale Protocol, if your app will be able to scale massively, and one of the things you can do is accept so many transactions that you can have an actual order book. So interesting, in an order book, the sequencing will be probably centralized, as in there is someone who accepts all the orders in order and put them, this one appear before this one, and it's a lot and a lot of data. But if you do it right, the exchange is still non-custodial. So the worst the operator can do is censor more things, and then therefore make his exchange less attractive because, oh, I'm reissuing the transactions from people whose key ends with 1, or from people whose KYC says that they're from the wrong country or whatever. Okay, you have to censor some transactions, but then someone else will not censor the transaction to be the same app, and you will just lose customers. But you won't be able to lock people's data in, and you won't be able to do bad things. So
gotcha.
So there are ways to write your app in such a way that it's still non-custodial, even if the sequencing is centralized. And the non-custodial aspect, I think, is the most important. The fact that they can't pull a rug on you. All they can do is stop operating for you or stop operating in general, but they cannot pull the rug, thanks to the data availability layer. So,
yes,
that's what we want to.
Approach is important. That is very, very important indeed. Okay. Yes. Now, this is absolutely brilliant. So we've got interoperability in there. We've got the scaling at speed. So DApps can actually, decentralized exchanges can trade within seconds of every block or whatever that's going through. So you can have the bot style trading that you're used to on exchanges like Binance or whatever it is. So you can have like second by second trading, which is absolutely brilliant for especially high volume traders, arbitrage traders. So it makes that trading experience so much better. Now, for the dApp developers that are considering Sky Protocol, at the moment, a lot of the developers on the Cardano ecosystem are running Plutus, Haskell, Aiken, they're the languages that they're using to write the smart contracts and etc. What's the language in Sky Protocol? Do these DApp developers need to learn a whole new language, or can they? Okay, all right, you're shaking your head.
No. You can use the same language that you will be able to use any language that you are currently using, and it will work. You won't have to use Globe, or you won't have to use any specific language. It won't work only on Bluetooth only. You will be able to use any language that you want. Obviously, we'll start with Bluetooth and then add support for the other languages, but it will work with any language. It's just a matter of sending the data off-chain to Sky Protocol, and then sending the signatures on-chain with Bluetooth or whatever. So basically, we will provide you with attestations that the data was made available, and then you can publish those attestations on-chain to prove that yes, this transaction is valid, and part of what makes it valid is that it was published on a data availability layer. Therefore, the watchers, everyone who needs to watch the transaction, could see it. Which is the hard part. The hard part of data availability is like you want to make sure that all the people who need to see the thing have seen the thing, and that nothing can slip by. And then the DA Sky Protocol provides you an attestation that says yes, because the layer 1 contract needs to verify that. The layer 1 contract should and must refuse data that was not published. And you can prove that it was published because we'll provide you a cryptographic attestation that it was published indeed.
Okay. So it does sound like it should be easy enough for DApp developers at the moment to look into Sky Protocol, scale up, and start building cross protocol DApps there. So that's absolutely brilliant. There's nothing worse than putting up another barrier to entry and having to learn another language just to use another protocol. So that's really good to hear. So I can see projects considering this and taking it to the next level. Now, probably my last question here. Milkometer did not have a token of its own. Sky Protocol does have a token, and many other L2s in other ecosystems have tokens as well. What is the use of this token? What will it be used for? And I like with a lot of these other ecosystems, they did airdrops to a massive amount of community members. I know Midnight is doing a big airdrop to all ADA holders as well. So it really drummed up the interest of those particular protocols. Will there be any sort of airdrop for Sky Protocol holders, large airdrops? And what is the token for? How is it going to be used in the ecosystem?
So yes, there will be an airdrop because we want decentralization, and and it's a proof of stake token. So we're launching a validation network. Therefore, how do you prove that you're part of the network and avoid spammers or avoid people grabbing all the power? The two known major ways to do it is proof of work and proof of stake. We don't want to open a new proof of work network. We are therefore opening a new proof of stake network. And so the stake that you put in the system correspond to how often you will validate new blocks. And we open a new token because we need a token for the validators. We could use an existing token, but then that would mean that we have no money to build a network. So it's also used at the same time to fund the network, to fund the building of the network. One thing I would like to get into at some point is maybe things like mergers and acquisitions. I would like tokens to be able to be merged. Like, for instance, we want to merge with the Cardano token or with whatever, which means that now when you own the token, you are responsible for two different validation networks. And now, if you own this token, you need to mine. Or when you stake the token, you need to mine two different networks. That's complex unless you merge the networks also. But whatever. So there's a reason why the tokens are separate, because if you had the same token to stake, everyone who mines one would need to mine both, or else it becomes less secure. So having the token separate helps keep things secure in terms of, yes, we know that if you're going to hold and stake this token, you will validate. The worst thing that can happen is actually no one validates, and then a bad person can acquire a very small fraction of the token and take over the network and be a bad operator, and then they can attack the network. Every network can be attacked by as little as 1/3 of the power. There's a mathematical theorem that says it doesn't matter how you arrange your consensus. If you have 1/3 of the power and can have some effect of the network, or if you have 51% of the power, even then you don't need to be clever about network effects. Then you can take over the network. So 33% plus network cleverness, or 51% without cleverness, always allows you to take over the network, and that doesn't depend on the protocol you have. So you want, when you have proof of stake, you want 67% of the active holders to be honest. That's very important, as is the case in any proof of stake or any proof of work. In proof of work, we want 67% of all the miners to be honest.
Okay.
There's no way around it.
Yeah, I should have led with that question a little bit early in the interview to make that really clear that it is a L2 DA proof of stake network, and then everything else would have made sense. So yeah, it's hindsight. Yes, hindsight. Okay, this is super interesting what you guys are building. It sounds like a lot of hard work. I think I'll get you on again in the future as you progress, and we'll see how Sky Protocol evolves. And I'd love to learn more about the validator network as well, being a stake pool operator myself on the Cardano side of things. That kind of stuff really interests me, and running parts of the node and being a part of the ecosystem is always really interesting. So Francois, you got a lot of work, like I said.
Yes.
Good luck with everything. But for now, how can the community get involved, learn more about the protocol, upcoming token sale, becoming a validator, and potentially launching DApps on your ecosystem?
So right now you can follow us on Twitter, or I need to update the white paper. The current white paper is I don't like it. It's not good enough. I mean, it's and I have a version of the white paper that goes much deeper into the technology that is not published yet, but I'll publish hopefully this week. Follow us on Twitter. I will announce the new white paper, and yes, we will launch this token, the first version of the token this summer, so that for people who want to be early and take risks, and probably early next year we'll have another round of the token where we will already have then a working system to show. So,
okay, brilliant. I'll put all the links, references in the show notes. Have you decided on your token launch platform that you're going to go through?
I'm not sure we have, no. So
okay.
Good question. We're evaluating many options at the time, but we haven't signed. It's not done. It's not signed until it's signed. Like we haven't.
Yep.
So
yep. Okay.
We'll announce it when we have the answer.
Well, check that Twitter X feed for those announcements, and I'll try and update this video in the future as well when that information comes out. So if anyone's listening back, they'll get information as well. Francois, thank you so much for joining me on this episode to talk through everything Sky Protocol.
Thank you very much, Peter.